Hi, welcome to the GoBe podcast. Today we have on Anthony White. He's running for District 2 City Council here in Vista, and he is a Marine Corps veteran, and we're excited to have him on the show.
Hoorah.
How you doing, Anthony?
I'm trying my best today, man. That's what we got to do every day.
Awesome. So, I just want to give you, I want to give the audience here a little bit of background. We actually surprisingly go way back.
Yeah.
We never actually served together, but, I actually have this guy right here. This is actually the first camera you sold me.
That's right. The first one, I think you were like, I want to step my game up for my company. I want to make an investment.
And I remember at the time this $600, $700 investment. I think because we also got the 50 millimeter lens.
Yep.
That investment ended up, it cost around like $800, and that was huge at the time. As you know, especially getting out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Was kind of broke,
Right.
but was able to basically make the digital marketing and video empire we made today off of your excellent guidance. So, I'm hoping that...
I was just one step along the path, man. You was honestly, I watched you grow over the years, man. It's been like 10, almost about 10 years now, and just to see how you've grown and being able to, touch base with you over the years and just seeing the little impact I might have had, you know what I mean? It's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Thanks. And so we go way back. You were working at OPT when I first saw you, and
That's
you
right.
sold us our first camera and lens, and we have a whole lot more equipment, as you can see here in the
I'm
studio
seeing that,
now.
man. Yeah, you really stepped it up. I don't even want to talk about pricing on all this stuff, guys.
But so we have a lot. We have a lot of cool stuff, but. It really interests me because we ran into each other, again, not too long ago at the Palomar Foundation
Community Showcase.
Community Showcase. And I didn't even know, but you're running for City Council.
That's right.
And it's here in Vista.
Yeah.
And GoBe Rewarder, we're all about Vista.
Yeah.
We have our headquarters here, and, I live here. I live a couple blocks away.
Are you in the district?
I'm in District 1,
right.
technically. It's weird how the districts actually go all over. It makes like a weird square around the downtown.
Yeah.
Because, I think I'm just in District 1, which is Karina's territory.
We got a good representative, and your business, right here, we're in District 2. So,
Okay.
I still.
So we're still technically representing District 2.
We're still part
right
of it.
Here.
Yeah, but we're all Vista though. You know what I mean? It's like because when we're driving around, we don't see the lines. There's no line that says, "Oh, now you're in this." It's all Vista. You know what I mean? And when you look at the map, I'm not going to throw that big scary G word around, but when you look at the map, it goes all kinds of ways, and you wonder why. You know what I mean? This little part is part of one and not two. So it's what? It's just Vista.
It's Vista.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so. I think that one thing that maybe people don't know about you right now, and that we really like to talk about on this channel quite a bit, is just your transition from the Marine Corps to where you're at today.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's plenty of people who talk about what they did in the Marine Corps and what they did leading up to it and everything like that. But if you could just tell us a little bit about kind of. First off, in the Marine Corps, you mentioned you were a combat marksman instructor working over at Edson Range.
That's right.
And so what brought you basically into the Marine Corps? And then once you got out, what made you stay out here? What made you love staying out here in Vista so much?
Yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps in 2010. Served 4 years and was stationed at Camp Pendleton. Went to boot camp at MCRD San Diego, and was from Florida originally. So I'm a coastal kid.
Okay.
I really enjoy that weather. I really enjoy being able to go to the beach and having that kind of maybe sunnier, less cold climate. I spent a little time in the Midwest, and I was not for that. I spent a couple winters out there in Nebraska, and I'll tell you, that was the worst, man. I almost froze to death. was terrible. So
There's a reason I don't live in Cleveland anymore. It's a lot of people. It's really nice. I go to Big Bear like once a year when it's a
hmm
little bit snowy. The kids get to play around in the snow for like 2 days, and then
yeah,
they're done with it too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. No, it's like 6 months. You're
Half the
basically
year it's winter and it's like in the negative 20 degrees. You can't go outside. You're gonna get frosted, and it's so it's funny story. So when I first moved to Nebraska, I had like sold my car, I sold everything to buy a plane ticket to move out there because I was supposed to be set up with some help from some family and everything. And so I got a job in town, and it's kind of like out here in Vista where it's a lot of hills,
yeah.
you know. And so I mean, not super like Vista actually, but it's it's some rolling plains more to speak, right? But you
Okay.
got some elevation change. So, anyways, I like to say because my apartment was on one side of this hill in town, and my job was on the other hill, and I moved in November, and that winter was the worst winter they'd had in 50 years. So I tell people all the time, I used to walk uphill both ways to and from work, hip high snow. I had no car because I'd sold my car. Didn't have any winter clothes because I'm from Florida. So I got hand me down boots that don't fit. You need boots that fit well in the winter.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you lose that thermal insulation. A jacket that's too big, and I'm hoofing it to work. Thank goodness I was a cook because I would turn on the convection ovens and as soon as I got in there and just defrost. You know what I mean? So but long story short, I mean, yeah, my whole plan, for a long time was to join the Marine Corps. Service has been a tradition of mine or in my family since, like I was saying before, since going back to the Civil War. We've been able to trace different people that have served. And so growing up, I knew that's what I wanted to do. It just took me a little bit longer because I was a young dad. And so I had to focus on making sure my family was stable. I had a 1-year-old son and just wanted to make sure that I didn't want to jump into something that was going to leave them in a situation. So finally, after getting my feet underneath me, like I said, moving out to get some supportive family, was able to join the Marine Corps when I was 20, stationed out here at Camp Pendleton. And I was like, man, this is where I've been missing all my life. I should have been out here because Florida's great, but you got hurricanes, mosquitoes, humidity out there. And so,
People who take vacations to Florida that live here, it amazes me.
yeah,
And I'm just like, you've got actually wait, like everything's just it's kind of cool out in Florida, but there's a reason why people in Ohio take a vacation to Florida. But
yeah.
people in San Diego who take vacations to Florida, it's still beyond me. You
You know
have
what?
the best
People
out here.
save up all year long to come to San Diego for 2 weeks, and we live here every single day. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
why would you want to go any? I don't go. I haven't been to Florida in years. I have no reason to go back.
yeah.
There's nothing out there that and it's so yeah. Stationed out here, and I was like, this is amazing. The climate's amazing. Vista, you probably know this, is rated as some of the top weather in the country
Yep.
because we're geographically really blessed. We don't get a lot of that marine layer from Oceanside. We're at the foothills of, the lower Sierras here with Palomar, so not like San Marcos, Escondido, where they're getting a lot of heat. Escondido in the summer, man,
I swear, when you cross in and it says "Welcome to San Marcos," I look at when you're on the freeway and I see my temperature gauge goes up like 5 or 10
you can
degrees. The
when you're on
second
the
you cross it,
78, you take that turn, and it's just like a wall of heat. You immediately feel it.
and it's like they somehow made the city line right where the wall of heat is
Mm.
because
I'm telling you, man, that is so true. So I mean, when you look at where Vista, we're so blessed to have this weather out here, and so when I was off base trying to find some housing when I was stationed out here, some bouncing between Oceanside and Vista, and trying to chase that rent. You know what I mean?
I did the same thing. I probably moved. I was only here for like 2 years while I was in the Marine Corps, but we probably moved like 4 or 5 times
Man,
in that
that
two
yeah.
years because we were basically chasing rent.
hmm
I think
Even then, what was the price for a 2 bedroom in 2011, 2012? It was like maybe $1,000.
yeah, well, it depended on where you were, but it was a little bit closer to like 13 to 1500. But then I remember BAH was only 1400. So
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if you
yeah.
wanted to get a $1,500 place, you were still kind of going over what a 2 bedroom should be for
hmm
BAH and
Yeah, so
everything
you're
like that.
chasing rent. Where you gonna go? You're going to Fallbrook, and then you're moving all over.
And I
And
remember, yeah, you'd end up making so many concessions just for that, like $100, $200 in rent. It's like, well, I don't need a washer dryer. I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
need,
yeah.
I don't mind, having street parking or, like, hey, okay, I have to
It's better
go.
than the barracks,
Yeah,
man.
it's better than the barracks for sure. But yeah, I remember kind of chasing the rent and, going back and forth as well. with that. Yeah, it's just, I mean, BAH really dictates that. I hear it's a lot higher now, though.
Oh yeah, the rates right now, I think. I mean, I'll use the comparative rate for the GI Bill, which is E5.
Yeah,
With dependents, I want to say it's about 3,400 right now.
that's an actual two-bedroom
Yeah, yeah.
price.
So, but I mean, when you're lower enlisted, you know what I mean, you don't get quite that same rate. So, I mean, once you get to like corporal sergeant, you know what I mean, you do get that bump up. And if you're using the GI Bill, you know what I mean, in the San Diego area, in
Yeah.
this local area, yeah, it's enough to where you're definitely going to be able to supplement, your income if you have that full time ability. So that's nice, but it only lasts so long. You know what I mean? You only get 4 years of those benefits. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure that you're using them smart.
Yeah, so you ended up settling in Vista
Yeah.
eventually, and then what happened after that?
Yeah. So found my home here in Vista. You know, ended up staying out here after I got out of the Marine Corps in 2014. And at the time, it was okay. I'm gonna have this. I was renting with some friends, and I was gonna have this great job lined up, and then now my friends are gonna move out of state. Okay, and at the time I was a single dad, had been a single dad for probably like the last 2 years in the Marine Corps, and that was part of the reason why I ended up not re-enlisting. Is just as a marksmanship instructor, you're going to the range before the recruits show up, before first light, so it's like 4 something sometimes in the morning, and you're staying until after last light, which in the middle of July at the highest time of the recruits, like 8:30. So
Yeah.
you're not clearing recruits and then getting word from staff sergeant and getting released till sometimes 10 o'clock at night. You know, around sometimes, you know what I mean, depending on how soon you can get home. So I'd get home and I'd see my kid for like an hour. He'd be sleeping when I drop him off, sleeping when I pick him up, too tired to play with him on the weekends. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I got out, tried to stay out here. Ended up having to have my son stay with family out of state because, where I was staying ended up going from having a bedroom to rent for me and my son to me couch surfing to ending up sleeping in the back of my truck because like, oh, it's just going to be tonight and then I'll stay here and then, oh, it's just for the weekend and then I can do that. And then, so before I got to that point, thankfully, I was able to have my son stay with family out of state because I would never, want to have my son have the kind of memories that I have, being in that situation. But yeah, so I mean, it was just like, I say it was slowly and then all at once. You know what I mean? It was like, staying here, okay, I can get this because on my own, not getting that stable paycheck of, the Marine Corps and,
Yeah.
you know, going to school part-time and working. I was working at OPT. Actually, when we met, I was, in that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably couldn't even tell because I was not flout, I wasn't sharing that with anybody. And it's not like you have that typical, personification of what it means to be homeless that people think of, right? I was working part-time. I was going to school at Miracosta at night, but I just couldn't afford to get by. And so, yeah, I was, in that situation for about 9 months. Just couldn't, qualify to get my own place, 2.5 times the income. I was making maybe $1,400 a month at OPT, maybe less, probably less than that because it was like whatever the minimum wage was back then. You know what I mean? It was not and I'm working part-time at a commission job, you know what I mean? So that wasn't easy. So yeah, that situation ended up lasting about 9 months. During that time, as soon as I got out of the Marine Corps, I had met my now wife. We've been together for about 10 years now. And, she is, I credit her to getting me out of that situation because honestly, it was my own pride that got in my way. As a Marine and pretty much any military member, former service member is going to say that, you're expected to be able to do things on your own and take care of it. You know what I mean? When you get when you know what the mission is, you're supposed to be able to accomplish it. And when you can't, you end up, really holding yourself to a really high regard in being your own critic. And like, dang, like, I'm failing, but you don't want to go and seek help because then you're looked at as like, what's wrong with you? Why couldn't you get it done? I mean, like, come on, Marine, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
overcome, get over that wall, improvise, adapt, overcome, do what you got to do. So I was too proud to ask for help, trying to figure it out on my own. Thankfully, as a veteran, we got access to, some benefits that a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Being able to get backed by organizations, just having that, that trust that people will have in you, being a former service member. So I got backed by an organization in Oceanside, Veterans Association of North County. That's Vance.
Excellent
Oh,
organization.
yeah. I had my wedding reception there.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I did. So, but so I got they vouched for me. They helped me get into an apartment, and I've been paying my rent, on time or on time or early ever since. I've never missed a rep payment. And so, like I said, I went from being in the Marines, 9 months homeless, being back on my feet. But that transition was like I said, it was like that.
Yeah.
And the one thing, you do taps when you get out, you go through the process. You're like, all right, what's your plan? I'm going to school. I'm going to get a job. I got this. Okay, cool. You're solid. You meet with your commanders. You do the whole week or two of, civilian dress and interview practice and resume building, and that's all great. The only things they don't prepare you for is the worst case scenario. They say how to get all these benefits,
Yeah.
but they don't say what happens if you slip up, if you find yourself in trouble or whatever. They don't. There's thankfully there's big attention now to the suicide prevention, and because that's a really homelessness might not be the effect of mental illness or drug abuse. Like for myself, thankfully it wasn't. I didn't have a mental break. I wasn't suffering drug abuse. I wasn't drinking. I just I couldn't get ahead. Yeah, my bootstraps just kept getting long. You know what I mean? I just couldn't quite get over the gap. And so, but if you have those other compounding factors, there's some more attention to that for veterans now. But that was a toll on my mental health. You know what I mean? I can't imagine what if somebody else was dealing with a mental illness or did slip into they're suffering with PTSD, and then okay, now they're self medicating, or now they're drinking, which when you're sitting in your truck for 6 or 7 hours every day because you got nothing to do and you don't have a space, you can't go just sit on your couch and relax. You don't. I got to park somewhere. This is where I got to be in somebody else's space because I don't have a space of my own. I got to be in in a park to a certain hour. I got to be at the store till they close, and then I'm in my truck in a parking lot. You know what I mean, behind a warehouse somewhere. So, yeah, you'd want to just pass the time. And thankfully, I was going to school at night, so I had homework to do, and I had my, my phone so I could watch movies, and then I'd crash, maybe get like 5 hours of sleep, so I could just be moving around, so that I wouldn't get my truck towed for trespassing somewhere, because I'm over like Lowe's and behind warehouses and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of.
No. This is a great story that I think is just, I mean, relevant to, I would say, most young people nowadays. Let alone people who are veterans and transitioning. Where I think, like even in my story of getting out of the Marine Corps. Yeah, I was probably one slip up away from being in that exact situation for years. If I didn't make a rent payment or two, or if I wasn't able to get the business off the ground the way I did, pull some all nighters, and it's one of those things where like one. Yeah, you were a flat tire away from from being in a bad situation,
Dude, my gas gauge didn't work on my old Silverado, and I can't tell you how many times I broke down on the 78, and I had to keep a gallon, 5 gallon gas can in the back of my truck. You know what I mean? But because I couldn't afford to get it fixed though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, so I'm just coasting along, hoping, you know what I mean? And then a cop pulls up, I got all the stuff in the back of my truck, and I look like, because I'm living in my truck, you know what I mean? And then that's where somebody comes up to, oh man, it was every little thing became a bigger thing. It was that much more exacerbated, that much more exaggerated. When you're just getting by, any little thing becomes a bigger thing.
And so, I mean, I think this kind of rolls into where you're at now. So you're running for District 2 City Council.
Yeah.
Here in Vista.
Woo.
What are some of the first off, what made you want to get into politics in general? And is there any advice for because I'm sure there's plenty of guys who are getting out, and maybe they are going back to their hometown,
Mm-hmm.
I know that things are a little bit different out here because it's not like you have a network and family and everything. It was the same way for me. Don't have a network, don't have family. Had to kind of organically, build stuff. It's not like you've got your dad's Rolodex or something like that you can start calling for donations or something.
Yeah.
What would be some, advice to anybody? First off, what got you into wanting to run for city council? But then also, do you have any advice for anyone who's looking at going that path, once they get out of the Marines?
Yeah. So to answer the first part, I got into politics. Well, I don't even like to say politics because it's such a charged word
Yeah.
nowadays. You know what I mean? I tend to try to frame it more of, public service because that resonates more with what I'm all about. You know what I mean? Like I said, service is in my blood. That's something that I knew from a very early age that I was going to serve my country. We both signed up, willing to sacrifice everything for a cause that was greater than ourselves. So that still, resonates with me. And so when I had my period of homelessness and I got out of that and I got my feet back underneath me, started going to school full time so that way I could try to get myself, enriched and better my life for my family. And I saw this opportunity at Palomar College where we had just built the new parking garage over there. They got the bond measure, a couple years ago, and they were building these new facilities. And there was an editorial in the Comment, the student newspaper, by Bethany Nash. Wonderful person. She's really passionate about advocacy, and she wrote this article that said, we got this brand new parking garage, 1,500 parking spots. Why can't students park there overnight? And I had, and up to this point, I hadn't shared my story with anybody. I never talked about it. People that I knew at that time when I was working with them, customers I interacted with in my sales job. You saw me suit and tie,
I
and
was about to say you were really well put together at the time. I wouldn't have. I would have no idea that
yeah.
that you were living out of your car.
Well, dude, because there's so much negative stigma. I'll get into that later. We'll talk
Yeah.
about destigmatizing me and what I've tried to do to advance that. But yeah, there's so much stigma that you don't want to be associated with it because then people say, "What's wrong with you? Like you must have done something wrong to end up in that situation. It must be some fault with you, or you must not be." Like it's kind of like almost like modern day leprosy when you become homeless. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that's, I want to help you out, but
And I think it kind of goes into almost a you know maybe it's a little bit more of a boomer mindset on the homelessness issue.
the culture
uh
is shifting.
yeah, the
It is
culture's
shifting.
shifting on it, but I remember my dad always saying is like, yeah, like that that bum over there is a dude who he's uh he's cut off all his lifelines
Hmm.
basically. He's had second chances, third chances, fifth chances, and he's blown them all already, and that's why he's out there. And I'm like, well, I don't think. I think the big difference between the '90s and right now, when you're talking about homelessness, is that those same lifelines. You don't have as many of them.
Yeah.
You don't have that same. Many people don't have that same familial connection or friends that are able to help them out as much, or and even when you're talking about communities that are it's even that same sense of community. I've as much as I could say a whole lot about the churches locally and everything like that, but it's not even like I've never even heard of like a church being like, cool, well, we put this guy up for a couple months to get him back on his feet.
Hmm.
And some like I said, those communities I think that were available 30 years ago, or those lifelines just aren't there. So somebody could only have one, like I said, one slip up, or one, I would say not even a slip up, just not having everything perfectly, not being a 16-year-old with your real estate investments and your Bitcoin, is considered a slip up.
Yeah. And part of it is that, as you say, those services are non-existent or less available, because they've also been overwhelmed with, we've been overwhelmed in society by an endemic problem in society, which is that, people are falling behind. And in this American culture, you're supposed to work to get what you get. And if you're not working hard enough, that's why you don't have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when people fall behind, we're only willing to lend a hand so much. And because more people are falling behind, we're kind of having this, you know, this kind of burnout that's happening with people because so many people are getting left behind, or are falling behind, and we feel like, dang, we're pulling up so many people, and then that's where you have the argument, like, there's too many welfare programs, there's too many things, assistance and stuff like that, so not as much money's going to them, not as many people want to give to these programs because they feel like, why? It's these people don't want to change. The homeless don't want to, the drug abuse, they don't want to stop, using, and everything else like that. And so we're having this burnout, just like we had, with the war on terror, right? It's kind of that
Yeah.
same concept.
Same kind of burnout.
So we have this cultural burnout. This, our empathy only extends so much. Like you said, maybe it's that generational thing as well. And now we see that shift in culture. A younger generation is, in my opinion, way more empathetic. You know what I mean? We have a lot more sensitivity in our younger generation. Um, and you could use that term one way or the other, however
Yeah.
you feel about it. But it's a fact. They're a way more sensitive generation to the things happening around them. You know what I mean? Because they haven't been as burned out yet. You and I, we still got some energy, especially being Marines. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? We still got, some piss and vinegar, right? We're gonna get it. But people that we were influenced by and the things we're experiencing now, we got what, the 20, 30 years until we're, where our parents were. So hopefully right now we can make the change. So by the time 20, 30 years from now, we're not burnt out. You know what I mean? So we gotta start making that cultural shift now, so that way the baton can get passed on to the next generation. They can continue on with a lot of empathy. So, anyways, that's a whole another
And
sidetrack.
so, if somebody wanted to get into public service, what was kind of like, what did you have to do? I know
Yeah, yeah,
Vista's
yeah.
probably maybe different than somewhere else, but somebody else kind of had the same idea. Said, hey, I want to run for city council in Ohio. Kind of like, what do you do for that?
So, I mean, it was like I said. I'll go back to that story with the parking garage, and I'll surmise it to say that I was inspired by this editorial to use my lived experience with homelessness, something that I could have benefited from, that I knew that would have been a huge benefit to me if I didn't have to worry about where I was parking at night. I could have been successful at school because I ended up withdrawing because I couldn't do my homework, didn't have Wi-Fi or whatever, right? Couldn't focus on class because I'm too worried about where am I going to sleep at night. So if I could have parked in my community college, that would have been a huge asset to me. That wasn't something that any community college, colleges really in the area are doing at all. And so when I read that article, I wrote back in the newspaper. I said, "Hey, that would have benefited me. I was this, that, and I'm formerly homeless, and as a veteran, I didn't know where to turn. And if I wasn't in that, if I was just a college student or I was somebody that was on the fringe, struggling, that would have helped me out." Somebody was like, "Well, you should advocate for the students for that." I think maybe it was Bethany, the
Yeah.
author. Maybe it was somebody else. They're like, "Join student government." Wow, okay, that sounds cool. And so got involved with the student government, started advocating. Can we make this happen? This would have helped me try to fight that stigma of what it means to be homeless. It's not just, the crazy guy in the corner who's screaming and suffering the
Yeah.
most. You know what I mean? It's the invisible homeless, mothers, college students, veterans, the people that don't want you to know because that way they're not looked at as less than. Started advocating for the college students. Let's open this up on Palomar. Got to work with state assembly members. Assembly member Mark Berman authored AB 302 to mandate community colleges open up at least portions of their parking lot for college students who they have identified or will self-identify as living in their cars. Connect them with services. Give them that touch of support so they can get back on their feet because they're in a really vulnerable position. They're trying to enrich themselves, and they're often not with the best economic means. They're a community college. They're just trying to figure things out to get better. Let's give them that little bit of support. So I advocated for that. At that time that I'm being featured in the New York Times, the LA Times. Who's this guy? This, oh my God. Because I was coming out and I was like, this is what homelessness is. And it was a time in the conversation where everybody was saying, no, homelessness is Skid Row. Homelessness is that crazy guy in the corner. And so all this stuff's coming out. People are like, why don't you run for city council? And I said, well, what can I do with city? They're like, well, doing what you do with Palomar, do it, for your community. And I've been out here for about 10 years, about maybe 6 or 7 years. And I said, you know what? I was looking for how else I could continue to serve my community in a way that I knew I could make an impact using my lived experience, my dedication to service, my values of being in the Marines, being a community member, being a father, a husband, all those things that you just want the best for those around you. That's what I'm trying to bring to the city council. And if you have those kind of passions, and if you have those kind of interests, and you want to serve in that way, look for opportunities to get involved with organizations you're passionate about, things that you can get involved with locally, and look for those opportunities to build relationships with people that will propel you in your journey to help others. You can't do it on your own, and that's where I learned from being homeless. I didn't have a Marine to my left or my right to turn to. when I was in that situation. You know, as a veteran, you don't have that. When you first get out, you're not as connected to a community of a network of other people, other veterans and things like that. That takes some time. And so when you don't have somebody to the left and to the right, you can't be as successful because you're too worried about everything else around you. If you have people that support you, and they're going to support you when they see how passionate you are about doing whatever you're interested in, those are the people that are going to help you to be successful. So I would say if you want to run for local politics, wherever you are, find your passion, whether it be homelessness, whether it be community gardens, whether it be safer streets, whatever it is, find the organization that's involved with that or that advocates for that or pushes for the right changes that, the changes you want to see. Get involved with that. Find your passion there. Find yourself people that can support you in that passion and then bring that passion forward in an impactful way. And if that leads to local politics, so be it. If it just leads to a better change for your community, I think that's what politics is supposed to serve.
Nice. And so for city council, I know it's still kind of, it's still the early stages of the campaigns and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But is there any major issues that you'd want other Vistans to know that this is what you're running for? This is this is the main issues I'm looking to tackle if you get the chance to be on the city council. So
once elected, because I'm going to be elected.
Okay.
Not just in service to District 2, but, all of Vista. But, you look at the things that are important to all of us. They're neighborhood issues. That's why, I was talking about earlier, I really don't like people, to say it's politics, because to me it's public service, because I'm going to try my best to serve the needs that I know all of us could benefit from. One of those things is accessible housing. Not just affordable housing, not just subsidized housing, but accessible housing. People need upward mobility. Rentals are great. I'm renting right now. I'm trying to buy a house in Vista. A little more restricted because I got to buy in the district I want to run in. So I'm like, trying to make sure.
You've already got a very low inventory on top of being in a very, very small area.
I'm a rural community, a rural district, I should say. And so it makes it a little bit more challenging. But the things that I'm running on are the neighborhood issues. So accessible housing, making sure that people have upward mobility from renting to being able to get into first-time home buying. I just said the other day to somebody, longtime Vistan, I'm really waiting to bite of my time. I'm trying to buy in Vista, but I'd hate to have to leave to be able to buy a home. And somebody says, well, reality's a bitch. You're going to have to leave Vista. And I'm like, damn, that's not right.
And, it's unfortunate because, North County was the place that people lived if they couldn't afford to live in San Diego.
And Vista of North County was the city of North County.
It was the city to move to. Now it's, because I have 10 employees here. And, I'd say that, being able to afford to purchase a home in Vista is let's say that's maybe part of the 5-year plan, not the immediate plan for many of them, and that's kind of sad because then I also have a whole bunch of employees that live in Temecula and Wildemar and stuff like that because that's where they can affordably
up way up north, Hemet, Ellis, and all that area.
And it's like, well, that's like way out there. And then they basically have to drive here every day, and now they have to have basically a whole big gas bill or anything like that, and basically take an hour to commute there and an hour.
And let's say there was something if you're a family member, or you have family at home, kids or a family member you take care of. Let's say there's an emergency, you're an hour and a half away from being able to do something, in your community. So we got to have accessible housing. How can you do that? Well, you got to take a look at what are we encouraging. I was told recently that the city can't direct, or the city has no control over what private developers do, and that's that's control. I can't tell you what to you can or cannot want to build there, but we can direct the policy and the incentives, or maybe the encouragement to bring in what we know we need in Vista, which is a change in how we have home buying options. Maybe we need to have conversations with some of the older rental properties, see if we can start, incentivizing them with city encouragement, and city assistance for residents to be able to have those options to buy out those older properties. Take investment in something like that. Benefits the property owner, to be able to get a lot of cash up front. They don't have the burden of doing, modernizations to their property. Now that's the owner's responsibility, and you get the city to help them do those things. We have a first-time home buying program that could be expanded. With a look at using some adaptive reuse, right? Specifically saying like, hey, what are the properties that exist now? Because we can't put the onus on developers to just bring in a whole bunch of new properties.
Yeah.
It's not, we can't just be like, hey, make it cheaper, make it cheaper. That's not how it is. We got to build, build, build. We got to up our supply so that way our demand is being met, so the prices will go down. And we got to figure out creative ways to do that. And so, without taking too much time on that, so accessible housing,
Accessible housing.
because
Okay.
accessible will make it affordable. If it's
Yep.
accessible, if there's enough accessibility, there will be affordability. So we got to increase accessibility. We got to have safer streets. We got to have an investment in our infrastructure, because most of our neighborhoods, especially in the second district, they were built in the 60s, 70s. A lot of our winding roads that now, because our major arterial roads, the pass-through roads, we're the heart of North County in Vista. If you're driving from Bonsall or Carlsbad or Escondido, you're cutting through Vista one way or the other. And so we got a lot of traffic coming through our major roadways. Our residents, now what are our residents doing? And sometimes people that cut through, we're taking all of our neighborhood back streets that are 20-mile-an-hour zones, but we're hitting them at 40 because we're trying to avoid the rush hour traffic. We got no
That's
sidewalks.
a huge problem on my street. Is
every
people act like, we live on a residential street, but people act like it's a drag racing strip sometimes.
And they're winding with no embankments, no easements on the side, and kids that are trying to walk to the bus stop. My son walks to the bus stop every day. We're up on Oak by Albertsons.
Mm-hmm.
My son walks to the bus stop every day. Thankfully, he's got a maybe 100-yard stretch of road he has to walk on before he's on Vista Way. But if he had to walk from further up Oak or Foothill, I'd be terrified of the way people drive down these winding roads. And we have implementation solutions the city council has started to provide for people to start getting together community support to put things like speed bumps in. But it's not just things like that. We need to make sure that we're increasing our road availability for resident commuters, because we got a lot of pass-through traffic. We have creative ways that we could discourage people cutting through Vista to get somewhere else, freeing up our roads for Vista's residents and commuters. I won't get into too much of that now because there's a whole other thing. I could talk about all these things for
And my yard's been taken out. My front yard's been taken out twice by a speeding car. Over the past 5 years. So
how do we get them out of the neighborhoods, back onto the main roads, and figure those things out? And then lastly, I would say that the biggest thing is community investment and development. Community investment covers a lot of things. It's public transportation. It's our emergency service providers. And there's no questions that I support everybody that serves honorably in uniform, because I know what sacrifice that takes, and I have total respect for for anybody that's willing to make a sacrifice to serve something greater, serve a bigger cause. So whatever we can do to support them, because honestly, we got huge rain season that's going to bring a huge fire threat season because of all the growth. Make sure that our firefighters are supported. We got too much speeding in Vista. Make sure we got more traffic enforcement. Get the motorcycle cops out there specifically so that way our streets are being safer. We're not talking about bringing out tanks. I love tanks. I was in the military, right?
Yeah.
But we talk about simple implementation solutions to do the things that we all want done that are going to make our city better. So supporting those services. And then, of course, making sure that public transportation is supported within our city. None of our bus stops along our major roads here have any coverage. There's not a tree planted over them. There's not a single little overhang. There's no solar light.
The one on Vista Way that was put near the old office it was I was surprised that people actually waited there. I would have people wait in front of my business, and then when the bus came, they would cross. But
well, think about the triple-digit summers we get sometimes. The rain we had. So if we want people to first off stay off the roads, maybe use public transportation more, make it a more appealing option, because right now it's not an appealing option. That mother of three, my son who takes the bus to school, those people that rely on the public transportation, the seniors and the disabled, those people that rely on that don't want to wait or are forced to wait in the inclement weather, dealing with traffic, the streets right next to the bus stop. You look at like Vista Way over here going towards Oceanside, and it's just like, man, people got no options when it comes to alternatives, and we're not making this one a really appealing option. So investing in that, we got a unique tax base in Vista. We got our dispensaries here, bringing in tens of millions of dollars in excess to tax revenue. How much does it cost to plant a tree over our bus stop? Put a little bit of shade. Wouldn't that make it for a better Vista if we could?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think we can all agree on that. I'm not talking about these, pipe dream things that were going to be divisive issues. I'm talking about neighborhood issues. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't it be better if we want a greener Vista, if we want a brighter Vista, we want a better Vista, we can do simple things that are going to improve everybody's day-to-day life. Everybody's day-to-day life is my main priority, because we got to live here day to day.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that that wraps up our segment. And did you have anything else you wanted to add?
You know what? I just really appreciate you having me here.
Okay.
Thank you so
Cool.
much for the opportunity. It's been amazing being able to watch. Because I remember when you were over there off the 78,
Yeah.
be up in that building there, and now you're over here with this beautiful studio, and one tiny little step I was able to add along that path. Man, it's been so awesome, and I appreciate your service. Thank you for that, my man, and thank you for the time.
Well, yeah, I look forward to the city council race coming up. It looks like it's going to be a steep one. A lot of people throwing their hats in the ring, but
Well, look, I'm the only one you won't catch me talking negatively about anybody.
yeah,
Because, the people that are willing to step up and do this, I got total respect for that. My opponent's a local business owner. I got respect for that. You know what I mean? 100%. But the only difference I can say that's really makes me stand out from the other candidate is the fact that I know what it takes to serve because
yeah,
I've done it. And I'm willing and able, not just willing, but able to be a full-time representative, not a part-time representative. I'm not just going to show up for the council meetings. I don't have other engaging priorities. I purposely make my commitment service. So you're going to catch me there 24/7 serving that priority as it should be.
nice. Well, I do like that. That you're not doing it as a side. You're not doing city council as a side hustle.
Exactly. It
Um,
shouldn't be that. We don't deserve a part-time we don't deserve part-time representation.
we have 100,000 people. I think it's always weird the fact that and not talking trash about anybody in city council or the mayor or anything like that. But I always thought it was weird when I did move here that the city council and the mayor either had a side hustle or the side hustle was the city councilor being mayor.
So check this out. You cannot unless you're willing to make the sacrifice. Like, right, I'm working part-time right now at Palomar College. I do outreach at high schools and middle schools, let them know about free college tuition options and things like that. So I'm working part-time now. I've left it full-time and turned down full-time work so I can make these middle of the day meetings, so I can walk my neighborhoods before the sun goes down, so that way I can be available to people. And when you talk about who runs normally as candidates, it's self-funded individuals, people that have their own business because they can afford to do that, take their own time off and put
Yep.
their money in it. Real estate agents.
I will say real estate
Because
agents.
right, because you make one sale, you got the rest of the month to campaign or do whatever you got to do, and that's all great. I got respect for people that are willing to do that service, but we are now at a critical time where we need full-time, 24/7 representation, not just somebody who's going to be at the meetings, but somebody who is actively always committed to working for the better, actively committed to working to benefit the residents' well-being every single day. That's what we deserve. That's what the seat should be. Shouldn't be a part-time thing. Shouldn't be a side hustle. It should be a full-time position. We deserve no less.
And we have like what 100,000 people that live here. That's what always kills me. It's like sometimes Vista has a little bit of like a small town complex because I get it. It's grown a lot over the years,
Yeah.
but I've seen places with 10,000 residents in Ohio have a full time mayor. You know what I mean? Like and like things like even being able to just having a little bit more of a structure that befits a city of 100,000 people
Yeah.
that is growing massively.
And like I said, these next 10 years are going to be critical to lay the foundation to a future that's going to be beneficial for the long-term resident. We're going to force an entire generation or more out of Vista, which means the people aren't going to work locally. People that live in that $1.6 million house are not working at the McDonald's down the street.
Yeah.
They're not working in our local businesses. So people that are having to drive from Wildemar to come here, it's going to become less frequent. It's going to become that much more of a burden. People aren't going to want to do it, and Vista's going to suffer because of it. So we got to make the change today for tomorrow.
Sounds good. We're willing to do it. And so if people want to find you,
Yep.
and if people want to help out with the campaign, if they want to donate, what should they do?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and you can check out my website, apw4vista.com. That's apw, the number 4vista.com. And you can find me available. My contact information's on there, my cell phone. I'm available. Like I said, my personal cell phone number is on there. My email is on there. And the donation link is on there. And honestly, every donation is going to make a huge difference in how many people I can reach. I'm a veteran on a mission, but I need, like I said earlier, I need support from people who believe in that vision.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here. Make sure you guys visit apw4vista.com. Check them out on Instagram. And that was a very powerful segment. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. It was great. I appreciate it.
All right, awesome, man.
Thanks, brother.